Hello, welcome to the conversation this Friday on News Central Television. This is the program where we bring you all the latest political stories and happenings on the African continent. I am Benga Aboroa.
And I am Rita Omodia. We look forward to a promising presidential election in Somalia come Sunday, May 15. But right now, on the conversation, we are going to be looking at the politics in Uganda, where former presidential candidate and opposition leader Kizza Besigye was prevented from leaving his home as he attempted to start protests against the government. And also, we will look at developments in Liberia, where there are fears that the governing Coalition for Democratic Change, CDC party, is recruiting supporters to provide uniform security for its candidate in an upcoming senatorial election. Very interesting topics that we have for today.
Interesting developments all across Africa. I mean, you have, anyway, we'll get to that in Liberia, but I'm looking forward to the elections in Somalia because it does mean a lot for the people of Somalia, especially at this point where they're dealing with the insecurity and the economy is tanking.
And even the political instability between the president and the prime minister. About 39 candidates are contesting.
Yes, exactly. And we should be getting results on Sunday because it's not universal suffrage. The elections in Somalia are quite unique because it's the members of parliament that decide and vote who is going to be president. So we look forward to that. Most definitely election. On Monday.
Definitely, yes. We will. So let's begin in Uganda, where the home of Uganda's opposition strongman, Kizza Besigye, has been under siege since yesterday, that's Thursday morning. The police surrounded his home in order to prevent him from a planned protest against the government over the soaring cost of living and an alleged political succession plan. Last week, the four-time presidential challenger of President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986, declared that he would take to the streets to protest the government's inaction on high commodity prices.
Now, Dr. Besigye was arrested by riot police just moments after addressing journalists about his new campaign that he described as a wake-up call for all citizens to regain their country. He also wanted a demonstration against the much speculated Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba's secession plan. It was long rumored that the first son was being primed to succeed his father, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now, for this conversation, we have joining us live from Kampala, Uganda, Kimono Dorcas, a journalist, and we also have Andrew Kyamagero, journalist, also joining in live from Kampala, Uganda. Gentlemen and lady, a warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining us on the conversation.
It's great to be here.
Nice to be here.
Okay, I'm going to break protocol, Dorcas, and start with Andrew. Dr. Kizza Besigye is a historical member of the ruling National Resistance Movement government, having been one of the original members of Museveni's guerrilla army, which brought the latter to power in 1986. During the guerrilla war, Besigye was Museveni's personal physician. What went wrong between these two comrades and brothers in arms, and what's the cause of the fallout?
Well, for a starter, Benga, a couple of things kept changing. Besigye at one time, he was a political commissar in Uganda, that he was representing the political wing of the NRA before it was National Resistance Army, before it was turned and registered into a movement as a political party. He was a personal doctor to the current president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, but they fell out on issues of principle, of governance. Besigye believed that there was a time to liberate the country, and thereafter we had to, go through another election, that power could be given to other people to lead. And over time, the appetite of power from his former patient, or for lack of a better word, or colleague, they parted ways. And from then he started to be on the opposition. He started off with the reform agenda, and later on he called out the colleagues and they formed a party called the Forum for Democratic Change, up to today, where he still subscribes. But later on, earlier on, before the 2021 elections, he started up another pressure group called the People's Transition for Power. It's more like a pressure group. He has always disagreed with President Museveni on matters of principle when it comes to running the country. It's not the first time that Besigye is actually coming back on the streets to oppose and protest against the current high prices of basic needs in Uganda. Just so you know that in 2011, around the same time, it was around 23rd of April, he was again arrested when he came out and said he's going to go on the streets and we protest as a country against the hiked prices of basic needs in the country. And this covers soap, this covers cooking oil, it covers bread, and he feels that the president is a little bit detached from the public. Just a couple of days ago, Abenga, the president was on a national television on one of the state occasions. It was Labor Day to be exact, and the president said that if you can't afford bread, go and eat cassava. And he said that we can't afford cassava as a country. Why should we stress about bread? Now, Besigye feels that this is a detachment kind of a conversation the president is not seeing. He believes the president is not taking a measure that should be taken, that basic needs can be afforded by the Wanayinchi. Those are the basic ordinary Ugandans. So he feels that walk to work always brings out a solution that government will possibly come back and give solutions. But from what we hear from the Minister of Finance and the flow of Parliament, well, he was very eloquent. He said, if you're expecting prices to go, down, well, brace yourselves, because currently a liter of diesel, it's close to a liter of petrol, because petrol is 5,320 Ugandan shillings. Now, that is close to $1.89, something of the sort. And the same range comes to that of a diesel, which has never happened. Usually, when the fuel, a liter of petrol is around 4,000, the one of diesel is around 2,000. Now, they're within the same range. Cars are no longer so many on the streets. Traffic is only for the selected few who can actually, be in position to sustain it. But again, this comes at a very critical time when the country just came from 2 years of lockdown. So basically believes government should have much more better strategic austerity measures that can save the economy than rather saying that people should just brace themselves for something quite more radical coming.
Oh, thank you so much. That's quite an intriguing relationship between Besigye and Museveni. I remember also back in 2016, there was a bit of a treason case allegedly against Besigye when they said that he actually swore himself in over the disputed 2016 polls. Now, Dorcas, we saw a video of Besigye talking about having a protest, mobilize a protest against economic and succession plans of Museveni. Now, can you talk us through the events of yesterday? Because we also saw a confrontation between Dr. Besigye and the Ugandan police. What exactly transpired?
Okay, thank you for having me. And I should say I'm excited to see Andrew here. I'm sure he doesn't know me, but at least I know him. He's a celebrated news anchor in this country. Okay, now when you ask me what happened is simple. Besigye prepared to come and protest and have Ugandans, mobilize Ugandans to walk along his campaign, calling on government to relax on taxes so that they can access essential goods or essential services in this country. But before he could make a step out of his compound, he was confronted with a group of police officers and some allegedly army officers. So yes, what happened is that someone wanted to walk to mobilize Ugandans to protest against what he terms unfairness. When the prices have gone high, governments are coming out to give a solution. What we've seen is a mockery of what any other leader would give to his nationals. Telling Ugandans to go and eat cassava is like an insult when you ask for Besigye. When you tell Ugandans to ignore bread and eat cassava, it is not going well with most of us, most Ugandans, most politicians, most economists. So Besigye woke up to come and mobilize Ugandans and maybe come up in arms for once to come and demand for what is, in quotes, rightly theirs, that government should be considerate enough, revise taxes on most of the essential goods in this country. His demands are clear. He is suggesting and asking government, if you cannot afford to reduce on the taxes, can we have some of the ministers? Because currently we have around 80 ministers. if we can reduce on the number of ministers and channel this money into providing other services in the country, I think the cost of living will be checked. If you can look at, we have what they call resident district commissioners. These people are serving a role equivalent to the chief administrative officers. So for Besigye, he thinks this group can be converted or dealt with and will remain with one team. That way, he thinks or he argues that that money will be channeled into doing other things to benefit Ugandans, which is currently benefiting a selected few. He also proposes government to check on the issue of corruption. Government should purposely or deliberately come up with a solution to check on money that is lost in corruption so that this money can be added on civil servants' salaries so that they can also afford a befitting lifestyle in this country. He alleges, of course, this one I won't state authoritatively, but he alleges that some security officers, specifically police, that deciding to collude with criminals so that they can make ends meet. That's a serious matter. That's a serious allegation he's suggesting. So when he came out to sell that idea to Ugandans, of course, security in this country is very alert. It's very serious. It's very positioned. It's well positioned and well connected. They got the alert, the information, and they were ready to get him back into his compound.
Thank you, Dorcas. But staying with you, Dorcas, I want to ask you this question. This is not the first time Dr. Besigye has been molested and prevented from protesting. Is the government scared of his political influence, and why is he being prevented from protesting? Does the constitution of Uganda guarantee freedom of expression and a right to protest?
That's a good question. When you ask me whether the government is scared, it is yes and no. First of all, it depends on where you're standing. If you're standing on the side of the opposition, it's obvious. Government is scared of Besigye because in the previous elections, Besigye has alleged, and he continues to say, his victory is over and over again cheated. They just steal his victory. So maybe indeed he's a threat to the ruling party, to the president, to everything to do with this country's leadership. So maybe government is scared. But currently, again, when you weigh in, you'll see maybe they're not scared, but maybe the Ugandans who can easily follow what he suggests. Ugandans are maybe suffering, and maybe they are just liking someone to be a ringleader. For your information, Besigye is a member, of course, just as Andrew said, he was a member of FDC until recently he formed something to do with the pressure group. So there are other politicians in the opposition who would be leading this walk to work, these campaigns, but maybe they are so diplomatic, they are waiting for boardroom engagements. So Besigye has been known as someone who takes the bull by its horn.
And goes to the streets.
He will not fear walking in the trenches, walking in under rain, walking bare feet, and he's carrying a saucepan, banging on the streets. That's what Besigye does, and he's known by that. And trust me, had he been left to walk just even 2 kilometers, he was going to pull a crowd behind him.
All right. Okay, Andrew, over to you now, because the situation between...
Just to chip in, Rita, if I may,
all right.
The question Benga asked there is very, very critical. The government cannot just take Besigye for granted. I think one thing that Ugandans have failed to understand is that the president, the sitting president, Museveni, he doesn't take anything for granted. And he knows how big this fiber goes. Then the timing of this walk to work, I mean, people are broke, people are hopeless, people are devastated. Them being rallied to go on the street and cause mayhem, it's just a snap of a finger and they will actually go. Then we just had the birthday of the first son, who is actually already showing interest in the political career. So you coming and you're tapping into a mammoth that is already angered, that is desperate for work, that is desperate for food, that is desperate for money, you're going to cause mayhem. Secondly, you're taking away the shine of my son. I mean, it just came out. He just told people that I'm actually going to stand one day. So you coming out and just say, oh, we are going to walk, it's better I contain you at home. So the timing was wrong. the factors already at play against the government, the regime and the ruling government were equal in the benefit of Besigye. So containing him at home, it is better for them that way. And why Besigye chooses this, it's because the opposition in Uganda, most of them actually, they're believed to be moles. They're easily bought out by the government. I mean, someone will be given 150,000 US dollars, and I mean, he will just drop the work to work. So for him, given that he has been in the struggle and he has been at the forefront of this demand for what is meant to be for the citizens, and on quote, he said, if you don't demand what is meant to be yours, it won't be given, because he has worked with them, possibly he knows them better. So for me, the current political dynamics at play, even the timing of the current terror and where we are unemployment and desperation and poverty is at a brink of a simple snap, and people will actually go into looting and all. Government better contains him at home. Anything that can trigger or incite Ugandans to go on streets is contained heavily.
Okay, Andrew, you say this containment is bad for the government. Now, we've seen lots of clampdown on opposition. I mean, if you take Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobby Wine, would you say that Uganda is drifting into a dictatorship government?
Well, it depends from where you sit and stand, because he will say in a couple of interviews where our president has actually been, he has said dictatorship comes when there are no elections. He just won the elections according to the Electoral Commission just the other year. So for him, he won't say that it's dictatorship, but with the use of what we call the POMA, the Public Order Management Act, that 5 or beyond people to meet, they must get the consent of the police. And that's what the police spokesperson was saying, that we don't deny him the right to walk on the streets, but he didn't inform us that he was going to move. And this tramples against the freedom of expression. It tramples against the freedom of movement. Not only that, the freedom of speech, because these are issues that are not only in our homes or in his home, but every Ugandan is feeling the pinch. Just to bring you to speed, every Ugandan today is struggling after 2 years of COVID lockdown, and the economy is grappling. And a couple of donors and funders were shut down because the government believed that these were actually using their monies to fund opposition to topple the current regime. So what he's doing today, the government would say it's not dictatorship, because they found a very cunning way to put it under the Constitution, and they will use that. They will say it's written in the Constitution, Public Order Management Act. You need to notify the police and the forces as and when you're going to meet, and your agenda needs to be shared so that the police can equate how much manpower will you need while you're meeting. Now, given that he's rallying people to walk to work while they're banging saucepans and pans, whatever you can bang, if you're driving a car, hoot, and you make the critical noise as much as it can, to them, they'll say we are following the law. But to those who see the law, you can actually get to know that they are using the law to make their ends meet.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, Dorcas, the United States Embassy in Uganda earlier this year condemned recurring reports of forced disappearances, arbitrary detention and torture of Ugandans. The most famous case here is that of Kakwenza. Sorry about that.
Bless you. All right. So why exactly are these things taking place? Dorcas, can you hear us?
Hello?
Dorcas, can you hear us?
Yes, I can get you.
Okay, while we still hope to get Benga back, why exactly are these things taking place? I mean, he talked about the issue of forced disappearances. You also talked about the recent issue that's Kakwenza. Why do you think these issues are taking place in Uganda?
Oh, okay. Now, I will take it from where my brother Andrew stopped, that in this country, the Public Management Act, or POMA, is very clear on the issue of demonstrations. So the illegal detention and arrests are made for people, specifically, let me put in quotes, people who are allegedly seen as those potential to incite demonstrations in this country, to strikes, to pull people to act or not to wake up. So if you are threatening, you're writing in information, let's say now, for example, Kakwenza, he became so outspoken, he kept on writing, that's according to government. Whatever he was writing was indirectly opening the eyes of most Ugandans to act or to come and demand for what's right theirs. So when you ask why is this happening, maybe because they've realized that individuals are increasingly coming up to mobilize themselves through writing, through communication of articles, different articles, books, newspapers, or even on social media, calling upon fellow Ugandans to rise up against the government. So that the arrests are happening, and indeed they happen every other day, maybe not yesterday, not today, but they've happened at least previously that we can tell. Government is ever hiding behind the issue of investigating. We're just calling you to interrogate you, ask you a few questions, give us the answers, and you're let free. But there are some cases we've seen not happening that way. There are even allegations that some people who were detained, who were arrested in November 2020, when we were just having campaigns of elections for 2021, they're still under detention. They're under house arrest, they're being detained in ungazetted places, but no one is coming to respond. So even with a statement from the United States Embassy or United States government, Ugandan government is yet to respect any call for these people to be released, to be set free.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. Now, Andrew, one of the Dr. Besigye's grievances, which you alluded to earlier, is the soaring price of commodities and the cost of living. We do know that the global economy is still reeling from the effects of the pandemic and the current Russia-Ukraine crisis. So can you really blame the government of Uganda for this?
As a journalist, this is what I see and this is what I know in the corridors of power. It's the government's mandate to actually make sure that there is a safety net for citizens about commodities that are basic: toothpaste, soap, rice, sugar, those basic
Essentials,
needs.
yeah.
And fuel has been one of the issues that was actually used before, that the prices of fuel, we're not having enough storage in the country, our reserves are empty, and that was fixed. Then the issue about the global North War that is in Russia and Ukraine in the Balkans, it also took center stage. When you look at a country like Tanzania, when the fuel prices went up, government came up and said, you know what, we're going to handle this way. Government gave a particular figure where no price of fuel should go above. And whoever was doing that was being arrested. That was a government remedy. It came through, it saved the country. Tanzania equally is just like Uganda. We just came from COVID. Rwanda, our neighbor in the West, it equally did the same thing. They said, look, we know that the times are not good. We understand it's a turbulent moment for all of us to sail through. But prices of fuel should not exceed this particular mark. My dear brother, Rita and Benga, here in Uganda, every petrol station makes its own price. Those who have actually tried to come through, like Shell and Total, they've actually said, we are not going to go beyond this mark. But again, the petrol station, that don't equally show you the price. So there is a little bit of a black marketing of fuel, and in a way, it has made the prices spike as they should go. Then secondly, government is there to give solutions. In a country where you have the Minister of Trade and Finance get on the floor of Parliament and they tell you these are forces we cannot control, then why are you in government? I strongly believe that we lack brilliant and critical people who can come out and they help us. See, Benga, we are at a very trying moment. We are economically in a crisis where we just lost the former Bank of Uganda, a governor. He just died this year. This was a brilliant guy. He had ideas, he had strategies, modules that could cushion the country. Here we are, a lot of things a little bit in a maze, and the minister says you have no solution. Everyone just hanging there. But while we're doing all that, the reason why opposition and the likes of Besigye are very fast to come up and blame the government. I mean, the first son is having bashes of birthdays. You're having birthdays. Your son is having birthday bashes across the country with a great security, with great merrymaking. People struggling to find a meal. We're in a country where people are struggling to take out their students at school and the children. You're telling them to eat cassava. We are in a country where we are having more RDCs, LOC5s, the cows and all, and you're actually stretching more cities without better funding, and you're telling them to eat cassava. So when you look at the dynamics at play, when you look at the choice of words the leadership is using, when you look at the would-be supportive structure that would give the cushion and safety nets for citizens to sail through this turbulent time, believe you me, the opposition will come through. And that's why I told you the timing was critical. Because the way the layman looks at all these things, it looks at it as mockery. So joining Besigye and they go on the street, they will have all reason to justify this. I mean, I can't feed my children. I can't take them back to school. But your son is having bashes around the country about his birthday. He's proclaiming that he's actually going to be a candidate competing in years to come. But he has not resigned from the army, which is against the code of conduct of the military
what's the latest
and of
on
the
that
Constitution.
Case? Andrew, what's the latest on that case? Because I'm happy you brought about the issue of the son, that's Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. What exactly is the latest on the case there? Because the Constitutional Court has actually summoned the commander of the land forces, saying he's supposed to have stepped down in position.
Well, one thing, Rita, let's look at the context of this. Whatever the court will say, the appointing authority is the father. What do you expect from courts of law? Because, I mean, whoever is there, and some of the judges we have there, they are time and again, even before we go any further, we had the case of Bobby Wine, where one of the Supreme Court judges came through and said, we had a ruling that was taken away from my desk, from here, and I need this to be addressed. It is the kind of court where we are going to go to and we seek to get redress about these all issues. The latest is the first son is going to respond to this through his lawyers. But the Constitution is clear. You want to run for presidency, retire from the military. And that's why the president had to retire from the military and that he could compete again in elections. But we have our commander of land forces, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, showing that he's ready to run for office in a constitution that was amended. If one has very clear sights, and the timing when he's actually speaking about this, the time when Ugandans are actually in grief, the times when the economic status of the country seems to be dwindling, it's very worsening and worrying. You're having merrymaking parties about your birthdays, like you won't have any more birthdays. The times where people who are coming up to speak about what is actually going on are being incarcerated and, abducted. So when Besigye comes out and says he's just going to do a walk to work, the issue is not about walk to work, because once the media stops him and the cameras are out, Besigye is going to start to hit on these issues. And these issues will trigger the public more.
And resonate with the public, yes.
The business district is going to be disturbed. Before you know, we are going to go under city lockdown. Before you know, no one will actually be moving. So the regime looks at the better way to attain and contain this. Arrest him from home while we are dealing with the challenges we're having as a country.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. I'd like to bring in Dorcas.
Thanks, Rita.
Yeah. Now, Dorcas, Dr. Besigye was the face of the opposition. He contested the presidency 4 times, and the world has witnessed the rise of a new star in the opposition, Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine. Now, what's the position of the opposition on this development in Uganda? Just yesterday, I was monitoring General Muhoozi's Twitter. He did clash with former army commander of the UPDF, General Mugisha Muntu, who asked him to resign before joining politics. So is the opposition in Uganda united, or are they fractured?
Okay, now on the issue of Muhoozi, I can say authoritatively that the opposition are united. Even you'll find some people in the ruling government coming out outspokenly to say it, that he should have resigned. Some are shy to comment, most especially those who have the powers to comment. For example, the UPDF spokesperson, he keeps saying, if you want to interview me about this, I'm not going to comment. The the generals are allowed to comment and say anything about themselves to media. So if you want an explanation, go to him. Those are signs that maybe they've also realized it's not good. So the opposition is united, and that's why maybe you saw Montu reacting the way he did on Twitter. They are also calling upon people whenever they meet in different forums. Yesterday we had some politically intended meeting that he had a number of them from the ruling government, from the opposition. They were still questioning. Everyone is discussing and asking, why can't this person demonstrate a little bit of decency and first resign, retire from the UPDF before he says whatever he's saying? No one is stopping him from aspiring, but can he follow the law? But again, who is here following the law? Actually, this morning I was telling some political analysts and he told me we no longer have a constitution. What we have is a book remaining with a few lines that make sense to Ugandans. Most of these rights are no longer rights, they are left. They've been played.
I mean, like you said the last time, if your father is in charge, your mother is also in charge. Who will punish you?
If your father is the president, your mother is the minister, who will challenge you? Actually, the issue of the court, yes, as the constitution summoned, we wait to see what will happen, but again, we won't be forgiven to comment here, right? That one will be dismissed, and probably with the cost to the person that took it there. Because we've seen it in the previous sense that when someone went to challenge, someone was dragged to court when they wrote about the president, allegedly saying he's dead. And the president was trying to ask for apology with that lawsuit. But the case was dismissed because they realized the person's information was not as bad as they alleged. So it was to threaten the individuals to keep off the first family. That's how funny it is. So it's what they want about the law. If they go to court themselves and they want something, they will do that. By the way, I should state here that even when that lawsuit was filed, on the very day, the first time went on his Twitter and said, we know who is in charge of the courts. So are you still waiting for the judges to sit and give you a judgment? No, we already know, some of us already know how it will go. It's actually a waste of time. In any case, you won't be surprised, you shouldn't be surprised when you later on find that the person that took this case to court is actually funded, facilitated by the state to just paint a picture of people who are concerned.
Had time to go on and on, but we're fast run out of time. And Andrew is just by the side of the road. We won't want anything bad to happen to him. So Andrew needs to get back home on time. Thank you very much, Dorcas Kimono and Andrew Kyamagero, both journalists from Kampala. We do appreciate your insights and your time on the conversation. Thank you. Conversation here on News Central Television. When we come back from the break, we'll be looking at the political situation in Liberia. We move from east to the western side of the continent. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Turning our attention now to Liberia, where the governing Coalition for Democratic Change (CDC) party has been accused of recruiting hundreds of its supporters to provide uniform security for the candidate in an upcoming senatorial election in the opposition stronghold of Lofa County in the far north. They have been captured, and social and mainstream media dressed in khaki suits marked CDC militants and red berets bearing the party's logo conducting drills.
Critics concerned about the exercise say protection for all candidates should be the responsibility of state security, not partisan forces. General elections are scheduled to be held in Liberia in 2023 to elect the president and House of Representatives. The incumbent president, George Weah, is eligible for a second term. To discuss this, we have Joel Cholo Brooks. He is the CEO, Global News Network from Monrovia, Liberia. It's good to have you join us on the conversation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we heard news from the ruling party MP, Thomas Fowler. He said forming such groups is normal in Liberia and can be seen even in places like South Africa. Do you believe that is this case, and should this be a norm in Liberia?
Well, Liberia is a different case, South Africa is a different case. In fact, Liberians from all quarters of life are complaining the statement made by Thomas Fowler, because people are being threatened already, because the news we have here is that the CDC is recruiting people to who will make sure that Mr. Weah go back to office. So the recent stuff in Lofa has proven that yes, indeed, the CDC is working out plans to making sure that Mr. Weah does not lose the election. It's very serious. It's very serious. People are talking in all quarters here in Monrovia.
Now, Joe, how much of a stronghold does the opposition possess in Lofa County, and why is the ruling party so desperate to win elections there? What electoral significance does Lofa County hold when you look at the political map in Liberia?
The CDC really is having a hit back in Lofa, because Lofa County is so pissed up with the president for their son, Biden Samoka, who won the election, and the government is saying he cannot take seat because he embezzled, quote unquote, the money of the AFL soldiers. So the stronghold of CDC is not in Lofa. The stronghold is the former vice president, who hails from the county. So Thomas Fowler, who hails from Lofa County, is doing everything to regain the lost side of the CDC in that county. So I did talk to my correspondent this morning, and many of the Lofan, the citizens of Lofa County are complaining because these guys were giving some money to wear the uniform to show that CDC have a hit in the county. So that's it. Lofa is not a stronghold of CDC. CDC during the last election did not put any crowd in Lofa,
Okay, now if you look at situations there, Bukai said that this situation should not be a repeat of what happened to the issue of Samukai, and we also saw the Board of Commissioners of the National Elections Commission announced that the Lofa County by-election scheduled for May 10 was postponed due to ongoing legal issues between the collaborating political parties, that is the CPP, a Unity Party, and the All Liberian Party, ALP. What exactly are these legal issues, and could they have been avoided?
Exactly what you said. The National Election Commission has postponed the election because of the issue on the ground. The CDC, the CPP is contending that they want their candidate to be recognized. The candidate of CDC has been, the candidate of the CPP has been put on hold. The National Election Commission is now recognizing the candidate of the CPP. So for the past few weeks, CPP has been going to legal battle with the National Election Commission. And then another issue that's sent on ground is that people are saying net is not being too fair to the CPP. So the CPP, the CPP is being controlled by the opposition. And then the CDC, of course, is the ruling party. But then the issue here is that many of those who spoke to reporters in favor of the CPP. So CDC is doing this like intimidation by recruiting local militia to I like to say she's in control. That's the issue.
If you look at this issue also, because you say a lot of people are saying that this is not fair on the part of the party. We also know that the UP and the ALP are arguing that if NEC does not have the right to determine constitutional matters and rights, they should not have the authority to prohibit rights provided by the very constitution. Now, you have been going on with things happening, especially in Liberia. Do you think the Supreme Court will favor the candidate on the ticket of the former ruling Unity Party?
In fact, the news we're hearing now is the Supreme Court may legally support the CPP action because the postponement of the election is a result of a Supreme Court argument. Supreme Court is saying that CPP has not been treated fairly by the National Election Commission. So right now, as we speak, I was at the Temple of Justice, the seat of the judiciary, and I was told that the CPP may legally win, and then the CPP candidate may legally go on the ballot. So it's just a lose and win issue.
Those are very contentious issues, I mean, Ginga.
Very contentious indeed. Now, for the last 2 years, Lofa County has been without one of its two senators. What are the implications of this? And has it had any implications on the quality of governance in Lofa County?
Well, Lofa County has been one of the counties that actually has been bitter with the government. Number one, the issue of Brandon Samoka. You know, Brandon Samoka is the son of Lofa County. And then just a few days ago, the chief of staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia and the Minister of National Defense confirmed exactly what Brandon Samoka said, that he did not use the money the court is claiming that he has used on his own. So you see, the Supreme Court is studying the situation. So the issue here, probably at the end of the day, Brandon Samoka may likely win at the end of the day the case that is hanging. And then at the end of the day also, because Brandon Samoka is supporting the current candidate for the CPP. And then the candidate may likely also go on the ballot because it's a contentious issue, like you said. I mean, people are still looking at the National Election Commission to be a biased institution. People are complaining about the National Election Commission. They are also worried of the upcoming election, the general presidential election. They are worried.
Okay, I'm very surprised at this because we also heard of the incarceration of the Lofa County Senator-elect, which you talked about, the Brownie Samukai, and we do hope and we wait to see what the Supreme Court is going to do on this particular situation. But if you look at situations in Liberia, especially with this postponement of the by-elections, how soon do you think the legislature will schedule a new date for the conduct of the election?
Well, as we speak, the legislature right now they are on recess. So probably it will take a longer time because they have to come back to section before they declare another date. No one can declare that except the national legislation. They are on vacation right now. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks, they will be back. So people are looking forward to see what they're going to do when they return.
Now, finally, Joe, on Wednesday, a group of women staged a protest in Zwedu City over the mysterious disappearance of election magistrate Alfred Donner. Has there been any updates on this case?
Yeah, as I speak to you, I talked to my reporter in Zwedu. I was also in Zwedu a few days ago. You know, we celebrated the World Press Freedom Day in Zwedu, and I was there. And then at the time I was there, the tension was building out. Because the issue here is that today, from what I gathered from Zwedu, is that the women of Zwedu, or the women of Grand Jeda County, which capital is Zwedu, has already blocked every corner of the street, every city center. No car leaving the city, no car going out of the city. So no car coming in. So, I mean, it's serious. I talked to my reporter, and my reporter said it's serious because the women are contending that they want to see their son back, who also was the magistrate for the National Election Commission. But the information also received, which has not been confirmed, is that the guy in question may likely be in Ivory Coast because one of the guy who they accusing of being the mastermind behind the whole thing is their senator. His name is Zoe Penno. They accused Zoe Penno because this guy was very high on Zoe Penno during the last election. So he wanted to get even with him from the info, but not confirmed. It has not been confirmed really if Zoe Penno is involved.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Cholo Brooks, for this update.
Intriguing developments in Liberia, if you ask me.
I must say, I mean, disappearance of an election magistrate, and we do hope to hear from the legislature on when these new elections will be held, especially in the Lofa County, which has been without a senator for the past 2 years. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you too.
And this is where we draw the curtains on today's conversation. In the first half of the show, we did talk about the political developments in Uganda with regards to the house arrest and detention of opposition leader Dr. Kizza Besigye. And in the second half, we just finished talking to Joel Brooks about the postponed elections in Lofa County. I'm Benga Borowa.
And I Rita Wardia. Do stay tuned for next week as we look at situations in Somalia.
Bye-bye.